In 2016, a new TV show hit the digital airwaves and needed a podcast dedicated to chronicling its adventures. An elite team has been assembled for this task. Unfortunately, the world's listeners have not heard of this wonder twin duo. And although they may not be known now, in the future they will be referred to as tomorrow's legends.
Harley, where's Rick, TC, Higgins, Michael Knight, MacGyver, Biff, Goose, or Maverick? You're not as much of an 80s person as I am, are you?
I got some of those references.
Well, some is better than none. Welcome, everyone, to Season 2, Episode 5, Legends of Tomorrow Come Promised, where we were very 80s themed, and the Flash here was just living at large, because, man, I love 80s.
I know, you finally got your 80s episode. I think that was your huge nitpick of the Season 1, that 80s episode we had at the Pentagon.
Yeah, where all they were wearing was, government official uniforms or something like that.
Yeah, we didn't get any, fun costumes or anything, but we got it this time. This is awesome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, we'll get into that in my rating. I'll tell you exactly why I thought it was awesome. But before we get to our impressions, I just want to give a quick shout out to Killer Frost, who sent me an email to clear up my confusion about her feedback last week. Because when I was doing the feedbacks on my own there, she had made some comment about Ulysses S. Grant, and I completely mind-blanked about it. So she actually personally emailed me and kind of cleared it up. So just wanted to say thank you, Killer Frost. That was much appreciated. And then we got Ken from Chicago's been tweeting quite a bit to us.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So yeah, I thought we could actually respond to a few of his tweets live here during our recording, because, even though I did tweet him back, I think it'd just be cool to give him some acknowledgement, because he does tweet us quite a bit.
Yeah, he does. He always has some really good ones, too. So.
Yeah. So his first tweet that he sent, we were talking about Jax and how when he was dealing with the slave owner in the house there when he first arrived at the festivities, and how there's nothing that Jax could have done, no matter what he said, the slave owner was going to punish him. And Ken had tweeted, it wasn't what Jax said, but how he said it that ticked off the slave owner. And that actually made me go, oh, yeah, that's a good point, because I think they maybe expect the slaves back then to just bow their head and say, yes, sir, and not have any response at all, kind of thing. So I think, and maybe the fact that he's questioning him and responding to him as if he's disagreeing is probably why the slave owner was not happy with him.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. I definitely think it was more the tone of his voice and kind of the perceived attitude that was supposed to tick the guy off, for sure.
Yeah. And then his next tweet was in regards to actually my nitpick last week when I was complaining about how they never came back to the Time Pirate, which they opened the show about. I was, wondering what happened to him. Why didn't they want to dig into it a little bit farther? And he actually tweeted, he said, well, the Legends trashed the Time Pirate ship with Mick gleefully incinerating it. Problem solved. I guess he's kind of right there. That half makes me feel better about my tweet. They incinerated it and got rid of the evidence, whatever, but I still wanted them to be curious. Are they supposed to be chasing time pirates that are causing problems throughout history? Because last season we dealt with just Vandal Savage, and now this season it seems like it's heavily centered on Dark and Thawne, but there are these time pirates that are floating around the picture too, so I kind of thought that would have sparked their interest a little bit more, that they would want to dig into it. So, what do you think, Harley? Because you didn't really have a nitpick from last week, and do you kind of feel what I'm feeling, that they should have looked into it more, or is it easy for you to just brush off too?
No, I kind of get where you're coming from. I'm just trying to think, because they've kind of taken on this role of not really tracking down time pirates, but really trying to kind of prevent some of the aberrations from happening based on what they're doing. So I'm kind of getting the feeling that some of the aberrations are caused by Dark and Reverse Flash, but some of the other aberrations are caused by these time pirates. So I don't know, I feel like they kind of are taking an interest, but maybe just not going back to this specific one. I would have thought they would have wanted more information about this guy, though, especially since he stole a bioweapon, you know?
Yeah.
And caused a zombie apocalypse. Like, I feel like they would want to know more information about that.
Exactly what I'm coming from. And the fact that he was on, like, a time-traveling ship. I mean, they might want to find out, well, where are these time pirates getting their ships from? It's not like time-traveling ships are just, you can go to the stockyard and buy one, you know, like they got to be getting them from somewhere. So I think they'd want to look into that too.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, well, so yeah, no, thanks Ken from Chicago for, tweeting us. You keep us on our toes, keep us thinking about other things we may have missed, and yeah, it's appreciated. So thanks.
Definitely. Thanks for the feedback.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Before we get into our show, we had a tidbit of news pop up, and I have to thank Mr. Podcast Overlord because he posted it on our page before I could, so kind of, he's very quick. He's very, very in tune with all that's going on, so he jumped on that. So thanks for doing that. But the exciting news is that our show got extended by 4 more episodes.
Yay!
Yay! So not only do we get just 13, we now get an episode order of 17, which brings us a little bit closer to a full season.
It does. So now so before we were getting 3 episodes less than last year, now we're getting 1 episode more.
Right. So, well, it could be, it's a 4 episode order, so maybe they're going to hope, because I'm betting that it's based on how successful the show is being this year, because I saw, and also in other news, I saw a little ratings thing, that Legends is the number 3 show on the CW right now. You have Flash is number 1, Supergirl's number 2, Legends is number 3.
Nice.
And then you've got Supernatural and Arrow for 4th and 5th.
Poor Arrow.
I know. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm loving Arrow, so I don't know why it's not higher rated. But bring it back to our show, the fact that Legend is number 3 means it's doing really well.
I know. That's really exciting.
It is. The only thing I don't understand from this news clip that we are number 3, it said we're number 3 with an average of 1.7 million viewers. Now that, where Flash averages 3 point something million usually, I don't understand, to me, how that is considered successful, even Flash at 3 million, because look at you guys down there, crazy Americans. You have 42 million people alone just in New York, and 40-something million in Los Angeles, and you've got hundreds of millions of people in your country. The fact that only 1.7 million are tuning in, to me, doesn't actually sound very successful when you're talking numbers.
I think, so from what I understand of TV ratings, and granted the system is, a little broken at this point, but it has to do a lot with, the network that you're on. And so, what's really good for the CW is not necessarily going to be what's really good for, Fox. And if you're looking at Fox, you got to kind of take into consideration what's really good for Fox on a Monday night is different for what's good on a Saturday night, because it depends on if it's sports, depends on if it's football season, if it's baseball season. The World Series just ended, so
right.
It's kind of all over the place. So for the CW, and especially since the CW has really these 5 anchor shows that we just mentioned, I think that they're doing really great with that, and they're having a lot of success. So, I don't know. That's my take on it.
Okay, but what I'm curious about is, so then you take a network like CBS or ABC. What are numbers for them? Say Grey's Anatomy or Law and Order or whatever these other shows. Do they get 20 million viewers? Do they get 10 million viewers? I'm curious how different the numbers are.
We'd probably have to look them up. I don't think anything short of a major sporting event gets upwards of 20 million viewers. Although I'm sure the election coverage had a lot. It was probably record breaking. I bet CNN broke some records, and along with Fox News and other news outlets. But anyway, I digress.
I think we're going to leave your whole president election out of our podcast for tonight.
God.
How's that sound?
Yes, no politics. We cannot discuss politics. It'll be bad. Especially how tense things are right now.
Yeah. So to dial this all back then, it's just exciting that Legends is number 3, and that's why they got a 4-episode order. So I think there's still a chance, if it continues to keep those numbers up, they might order another 4 to bring it to a full 21, which would be a full season.
That would be cool.
That would be cool. I mean, that's just a guess. I'm theorizing, but it would be awesome. And it makes me wonder, okay, so they originally, we've got 13 episodes. Well, have the writers already written all 13 episodes? And if so, then getting 4 more tacked on, does that mean that they're now scrambling to add new stuff in? Did they have a 13th episode finale already? Or are they only writing 1 or 2 episodes ahead of what's being filmed, so that they're essentially maybe at episode 8 or 9 right now, and they're like, okay, now we've got 4 more, we can extend these story arcs that we're working on, and we don't have to try to squeeze and rush things in.
From what I understand, I know that writing gets done a bit ahead of the filming, but I don't know how much ahead of filming they are. So, let's see, this was episode 5 that just aired, so, usually they're at least, 3 to 4 episodes ahead in filming, which means, I think you're right, in theory, they probably have already written, or are close to writing, that, that 12th and 13th episode. Mm-hmm. So, I think what they're going to have to do is just kind of shift maybe the story arc somehow and either add something in or extend something. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. Either that or they can always rewrite or go back and, shoot some additional scenes to put in instead and kind of rework things. So.
Well, I mean, to, I guess, put it into a little bit of perspective, we do know for a fact that they just finished filming the 4-show crossover due to Stephen Amell's posting about it and all the photos on Twitter and Instagram and stuff by all the cast. They just finished wrapping up the crossover, and the crossover is supposed to be, at the episode 8 of all the shows? Of Flash and Arrow, I believe? Is it the episode, or 9th episode?
Something like that. I mean, it's in a couple weeks, right?
Okay, so it's possible that maybe they've only gotten that far. So...
That's definitely possible, because I think having to do this epic crossover probably took a lot out of the writing stuff. Right.
So we might be okay. They might be able to take things from the crossover and now extend it more.
Yeah. Just have to see where they go with it.
Cool. Anyway, but that's we kind of got off on a bit of a tangent there. Sorry, folks, but it's just interesting. It's exciting and it's interesting. So that's what we have for you for our news section.
Yay, news.
Yay. Yeah, that was new. I don't think we've done that yet.
We rarely do news, but that was fun.
That was fun. All right, well, let's get into this.
We now return you to your regularly scheduled podcast, already in progress.
So, Harley, let's get on to this episode. What are your impressions? How'd you feel about this one?
Well, I gave this one 8.5 Back to the Futures. I thought it was a good episode. Mm-hmm. See what I did there? Back to the Futures.
Yes. That one was an obvious one, but they're really pulling on the Back to the Future references. Almost every episode you'll find something connected to that movie trilogy. It's pretty funny.
That's true. Well, and then also with Dark at the end, where they sent him. I don't know. I'm assuming it's the future, but maybe it's not.
Mm-hmm.
See. Anyway, it was a good episode. It moved the story along, but there weren't as many big action sequences this episode, but it also didn't feel heavy on the exposition either. So I thought it struck a good balance, and it moved the story along pretty nicely. Some of the things that I really enjoyed about it were kind of the continued partnership of Ray and Rory, and then especially with Rory opening up to Ray, I thought that was really cool, and it really kind of showed some more depth to their relationship and their partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got the scenes with Martin and his younger self, and those are all pretty fantastic, especially towards the end when he's giving himself advice. Those were so great. I definitely have mixed emotions on Sara continuing to pursue Damien Darhk, because I thought we had moved past that, but now I think we've definitely moved past that. It just felt like it was a rehash of what we went through with Rip last year, and so I'm kind of glad that it was more or less resolved in this episode, because I don't want it to keep dragging out, because this is the same struggle that we had with Rip last year, so I don't want to have the same struggle with Sara. But
Yeah, I do kind of feel the same with you there. on that stuff. But we'll talk a little bit more in depth about her when we get a little farther down into it. And I actually have a bit in my rating as well about her. I also rated it 8.5. Awesome 80s references.
Nice.
I'm gonna be so 80s fanboying out on this episode. It wasn't as strong or powerful or as exciting of an episode as we've had. It was just definitely enjoyable from start to finish. Now, for me, I mean, I'm an 80s boy. I love the music, the TV shows, the movies. So when this one opened up with an 80s soundtrack and dark looking all Miami Vice, I was already in the best mood possible, and I don't think the ep could have changed my enjoyment, even if it turned out to be real campy and light. I mean, that Top Gun entrance into the White House was probably the single best moment of the series for me. With Sarah, I was disappointed in her behavior, right up until she said, "I can't be anywhere near dark right now." That showed me some growth in her. And then the final scene with her and Dark in the warehouse there, we'll get to that a little bit later. But like you said, may not have been the most action-packed or drama-heavy episode, but I think after last week, this is just what we needed. It was entertaining, start to finish. I loved having Lance Henriksen from the Aliens movies on board. That's movie caliber acting that they've employed, and it's fantastic. And it seems like these DC TV shows are drawing in that kind of talent, because you look at Arrow, they got Dolph Lundgren on there now, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later in our new section. So yeah, overall, it was fun. It was nothing really wrong with the episode. It was a little lighter on the drama and a little bit lighter on the action, but it was well done, well written, start to finish, and not boring at all.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome that they brought Lance Henriksen in, and we kind of saw that he was going to come in through some of like the news we had read over the summer, and I was really excited about that too, because you're right, it's movie caliber acting that they're bringing in, and I think that is awesome for these TV shows.
Yeah, it totally is.
And also, I should throw out a disclaimer about Arrow. I haven't had time to watch this week's episode yet.
Uh-oh. So I shouldn't say anything.
I figured I should tell you up front that I hadn't seen. It's just I'm caught up until this week, but I really only got some sleep in the last couple of nights, so I went to bed at 9:00 on Wednesday. I didn't have time to watch.
No worries. Well, we'll get to that a little bit later anyway. So.
Okay.
So this episode, I mean, here we are talking about who's going to do the opening monologue, and it's Jax this week.
I know. I felt like Jax should have done last week, and Martin should have done this week.
I do too. I mean, it was great. It was good to hear Jax doing it this week, so I was happy about that. But yeah, they should have had it flipped around.
I agree, but I feel like they're rotating it. We have not yet heard Ray, right? Is he the only one? Or no, we haven't heard Mick do one yet.
We haven't heard Mick, and we haven't heard Ray, because the ones that you guys thought was Ray was actually Steel. Nate, yeah.
So far, we've had Martin, then Sarah, then Nate, then Martin again, and now Jax.
Yeah, that sounds right. So yeah, maybe Vixen will get a chance as well down the line, because she is kind of a member now.
Yeah, I was just thinking that now that she's more part of the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we'll have to see.
We'll have to see. Okay, well, like I said in my opening feelings here, right off the bat, we're in Miami, 1987, and there's Damien Darhk looking exactly, I mean, the outfit was to a T Don Johnson's outfit from Miami Vice, and that was awesome.
It was pretty great.
I mean, they even had the Ferrari there and everything. It was a different color Ferrari, but the fact that the Ferrari was there, it was, the music they had and everything, I was just like, oh my god, this is so cool.
Yeah, I definitely think it was a clear shout out. That's one of the more recognizable 80s movies.
TV shows.
Whatever. See? I'm showing my age.
Yes, and usually people complain about that when they're showing how old they are, but you're showing off how young you are.
Yeah, although, I'm not that young. It's just, it comes to 80s stuff. Well, I was born in the 80s, so.
Yeah, so probably more 80s for you would be more like cartoon kind of things, I guess.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I don't know, when I watched all the Looney Tunes.
yeah.
Any.
Anyway, so we've got that opening scene, and it looks like a deal of some kind is going down.
Yeah, so it looks like Damien Darhk is, I don't know, facilitating some sort of drug deal, but he requested a rather unusual payment, in my opinion. He wanted a ceremonial axe from the Emperor Nero, and he gets into a conversation, well, with the reverse flash, who just kind of zips, through this whole scene.
Takes out all the guys there.
I know, that was so great.
It was cool, yeah. I mean, the stunts for that alone, because guys were flipping and spinning through the air because he was taking them out so quick. It was cool.
Oh, yeah, it was totally great. But yeah, so he's telling him that he is collecting relics, and so I'm not 100% sure exactly what that means, but I'm wondering if he might be searching for that idol that we see with him in Arrow.
Yeah, and there's people posting about that on our Facebook page, and some people were kind of complaining about it, and it's a good theory that he might be looking for ancient artifacts that can connect him to his power, because we haven't really seen him. I don't think he has his magic ability right now. He's just a well-trained League of Assassins martial artist.
I agree. I don't think he does either, and I'm okay with him being on the search for that power, as long as we don't bring that power into the show, because like many that were complaining about it, I also did not enjoy the use of magic, especially his magic on Arrow last season. So, I mean, I like that they're nodding to what happened there, and I like the fact that we might be able to see the origin of how he gets that idol and he gets that power.
Yeah.
But I am perfectly content if they never bring it into our storyline.
I love origin stories, so I think it's cool that they could possibly be showing us where he rose to power from. It's just, like you said, it's a cool connection. It kind of ties in the Flash, Legends, Arrow universes. Everything is slowly coming together, and I like that.
I know. I really like how everything's kind of starting to intertwine. And, I mean, speaking of that, just having the reverse flash in here and just the way he zips through everything, I really forgot, how formidable he really is, especially when there's not another speedster around.
Totally, because he's not even anyone with, I don't think Adam with his Atom suit could stop him. I don't think Mick's heat gun could stop him. We don't really have anyone that could stand up to him. He's a freaky. He was always the greatest villain on the Flash TV show. And
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if maybe that'll be an opportunity for Barry Allen to make a guest appearance on our show. That would be pretty awesome.
It only makes sense, doesn't it? Who else can stop him? Or
exactly.
Even who has a chance to stop him? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And plus, we've already got the voicemail from 2056 Barry.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense that 2016 Barry should come join the fight. I mean, why not?
Why not? I want it to happen.
I don't want it to happen. I mean, we learned some interesting things here, though, in this scene, just to kind of wrap it up. I mean, we learned that the Reverse Flash has hired Dark. He hired him, well, I mean, we kind of knew this, but he hired him 45 years ago to nuke New York, and then he is time hopping to the point now, because he's saying that no time has passed for him, but for Dark, it's clearly been 45 years.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Has it been 45 years since Dark has seen him?
I think so.
Just the way he worded it. But then again, he said, you hired me 45 years ago to nuke New York, so maybe he's just talking about the job at hand, that was 45 years ago, or they haven't seen each other for 45 years. But I liked what you said, yeah, Reverse Flash, he's like, for me, it's just been and he snaps his fingers. And that totally tells us that, yes, he is time hopping, he's going all over the place. It's like he's just checking in the various time periods that everything's still going according to plan.
Yeah, it kind of seems that way. He definitely, it's very purposeful where he's going and when he is stopping, if you will. I mean, it looks like he wants, to rewrite history. I'm not really sure to what end, but I mean, I think that's pretty clear. That's what he's trying to do.
Yeah. Well, to his own end. All he cares about is himself, so.
Yeah. I know. And we have to remember, though, he still has this mysterious amulet that he stole from the JSA that we still don't know what that's about.
No, exactly.
So, this nod to Arrow, I mean, in one sentence, he basically tells Dark he knows exactly what's going to happen to him in the future, but then he doesn't tell him. He walks that fine line of giving away too much information about the future. And then he also tells him that he can give him power. And we're like, okay, so what kind of power can you give him? And is this how he gets the idol? And is this the origination of where, like we said, where his powers are ultimately going to come from?
Yeah, is it Thawne that leads him to that spooky looking metal head idol thing?
Yeah, that would be an interesting twist, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be an interesting twist if that's where it all began. Because he's not a dumb guy. Did you notice Thawne recognized the axe and knew exactly who it was from and where it came from? Like he's also really, really smart. He knows stuff.
That is very true. He's very smart, and he's probably studied history in addition to experiencing history.
Yes.
In the same manner.
And this all just ties into why he is one of the greatest villains amongst all the TV shows.
Yeah, he really is. He's definitely my favorite villain.
Yeah, me too. A bad Flash.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so then we move on from that to, we're back on the Waverider now.
Mm-hmm. And we kind of open with Jax arguing with Stein, and he wants to change history a little bit at a time so people, I guess, don't notice. But he definitely wants to completely change history, and Dr. Stein is arguing. He's like, this is going to create aberrations. This is what we're trying to stop. We don't want to create them. We're trying to stop them. That's the point.
Well, yeah, because I think what Jax was hitting at is he doesn't like his future the way it is, where, there's still minorities and there's still unequal rights and all this stuff. He wants to make minor changes throughout history so that, black people are perfectly equal. He wants to change things so there's no slavery, there's no whatever. And I think no matter what he does, anything minor will have major impact and to completely change the future. And I can totally understand why he would want to do that, why he would want to save all the people, the suffering, and the poor treatment and the unequal rights and everything. Like, I totally get it. But when he asks Sara to step in, and she says, well, my heart agrees with you, but we can't. Rip entrusted us to save the future the way it is, not to change it for the better. Things happen for a reason, that's the way it is, and we have to protect that.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's when Jack says, one of my favorite lines, I was almost going to use it for one of our quotes, when he says, well, then all we are is time janitors. That's it.
That was a great quote, and it really explains his position and kind of his feelings on what they're doing. And to an extent, I mean, they kind of are. They're going around and they're cleaning up people's messes. But
essentially, that's all they are. From one perspective, I guess.
Yeah. But it's for a good cause. I mean, you have to preserve history. They're trying to preserve the timeline. They've stepped in as the Time Masters since they destroyed the Time Masters.
Yes.
So, this is what they signed on for. And I think he's just having a hard time with that now. With
what he just went through, yeah, exactly. But it's good. It shows that we're not just jumping from one episode to the next. We've got a massive story arc, and the characters are learning and growing and connected from one episode to the next. So I did like that stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's a lot better character development this season. I really am enjoying it.
Yeah, character development, story development, everything is just intertwined and linked. It's the writers have really, really stepped it up a notch. Or 5.
Yeah. I mean, and it's the same thing, because the next thing that we kind of see is we get these scenes with Ray and with Rory. Yeah. And, I mean, he's trying to be cool. He's trying to be Captain Cold, just like Snart. And he he's having such a hard time doing that because it's so not him.
It's not him.
Yeah,
exactly. And I mean, this scene, it's hard to say, was it a serious scene that ended up being kind of funny, or were they meaning it to be a funny scene that had serious connotations to it?
I think the latter. I think it was supposed to be like a lighter-hearted, funnier scene, but then at the end you kind of get that like little bit of serious bit to it, with Ray just trying to embrace the pain, the darkness, the anger, as Mick so eloquently puts it. But it's so not him, and we see the consequences of that throughout this whole episode.
Yeah, because he's trying to be something that he's not.
Exactly.
But it's also funny because Ray is such a goofy Boy Scout kind of character, for him to try to shut that down and be cold and collected and calm. It's funny. It's a huge stretch for him.
It's almost a little unsettling. But...
Yeah, well, especially unsettling for Mick, because Mick gets quite frustrated with him. And how many times did he tell him just shut up?
Yes, that happened a lot throughout the episode.
Exactly.
Well, so another thing that we kind of see is that Nate has created a time seismograph, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, again, another new time travel gimmicky thingamajiggy whatever gadget. Love it.
I know, totally awesome. And so what he wants to do is isolate the epicenter of all these time quakes, so they can isolate the origin and figure out where they're coming from, so they can track down their time-traveling murderer.
Mm-hmm. And actually, that was one of the funny lines right there, too, because it was Vixen that actually said, what is it, some sort of time seismograph? He's like, hey, I like that. I'll steal that.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of little, like, good quotes. It was, I mean, it's hard to find the ones that you thought would be the funniest.
Yeah, no, it totally was. And these two are actually having quite a good chemistry between the two of them, too.
Yeah, I liked their kind of, because they almost had like a little side story in and of itself, and I liked their chemistry together and kind of how that developed. I think they made a good pairing.
Yeah, well, actually, I think he's fitting in with everybody. He seems to have a good chemistry with everyone, and I would give credit to the actor. He's just doing such a good job.
He really is. He's definitely quickly becoming a favorite character of mine. The way he delivers the lines, the way he plays the character, it's just perfect. I love it.
Exactly. So they locate one big aberration, which happens to be at the White House in 1987, just before good old Ronald Reagan and Gorbachev signed their treaty to help end the Cold War.
That sounds dangerous.
Sounds dangerous. I mean, I remember it. Maybe you were a little bit young, but I just remember how freaky of a situation that was back then, to know you've got the two biggest superpowers of the time talking about shutting down, their nuclear armament. And yeah, it was tense. It was a tense time. And so for them to kind of dive in to that moment in history and throw Damien Darhk in there as a big old wrench, holy, yeah, could have been a very scary moment.
I know, yeah, it definitely could have been. I mean, I was way too young to remember this, but I've been watching a lot of The Americans, and it takes place during this time period, and so I've kind of boned up on some of that history and refamiliarized myself with, like how tense it is to more appreciate that show, and so. Yeah, of all times to pick to disrupt history, man, they sure picked a good one.
Definitely. Good going. So that takes us into Washington, D.C., where we've got Sarah, Ray, and Mick trying to find a way into the White House, while Nate and everyone, Amaya, Vixen, I always keep calling her Vixen, that's what I always forget her name's Amaya, but Nate and Amaya are going to check out the old GSA training facility.
Yeah, so... All right, so we've kind of got two little tracks here, so I just have like a couple comments on both.
Okay.
One, when the three of them, Sarah, Ray, and Mick, are trying to like infiltrate into the White House, like I thought it was kind of a little hokey that they like went on a tour and then just like took off their visitor badges and like disappeared. mean, I know it's the late 80s, but I still feel like security would be tighter, and they wouldn't necessarily be able to do that, but...
Well, I have to ask you because, I'm Canadian, so does the White House have... Because me and Patty Spivot were actually talking about it. Does the White House have, like, a public area? Can you just freely walk in, sign up for a tour, wander around? There's, like, public areas that you can come and go as you please, and then yet the rest of the majority of the house is sealed off, and there's security and checkpoint stations and all that kind of stuff?
It's not exactly come and go as you please, per se, but yeah, you can totally take tours of the White House. There's definitely public areas, and they'll show you around. I've done it.
Okay.
Yeah, most schools, and I don't know if this is maybe an East Coast thing or maybe even a Midwest thing. I grew up in Ohio, and so we took like a big trip in 8th grade to Washington, D.C., and we toured the White House, and we did, all sorts of fun stuff, to learn about our history and see our nation's capital. And so, I mean, there's definitely areas where you can go, you can sign up for tours and see certain things, but I mean, it's a large building, and, it's the home of the President of the United States. It's incredibly secure, and there's security and military everywhere.
Right.
You can't go strolling off. Especially these days with like security cameras and all that sort of stuff. So
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, so that was sort of like my little comment on that. But it was the late 80s, so I don't know, maybe security was a little bit more lax. But anyway, so kind of our other storyline we've got going on here is with Nate and Vixen, and so they go to check out this JSA training facility, but it's totally a bust. Like, it looks like it hasn't been used in decades.
Well, it's covered in dust, yeah, it's done.
Yeah, cobwebs, and I mean, everything, all the equipment looks really old. Like, I mean, it looks like circa 1950, maybe even 1930, like not something that would have been modernized, post, in like 1980, so.
No, and I did find it funny that Vixen punches in a code and nothing's changed, it's exactly the same.
I thought that was a little convenient. I was like, in 45 years, even the code hasn't changed? That doesn't seem right. So I feel like something was up as soon as like that worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so they get into the facility, and they're checking it out, and it's all kind of done. They're kind of questioning what's going on. Where's the JSA? What happened? And sure enough, we see a dark figure up on a higher ledge watching over them.
Mm-hmm.
And then, poof, he turns into, it's obsidian, and he turns into a smoke form, and he's ripping around the room and making everything all smoky and dark. And we get an answer to everybody's complaint lately. We see Vixen access a different animal spirit.
That was cool.
And I thought it was really cool. It looked like some kind of hawk to me, but it was really neat how her eyes glowed, and it allowed her to see more clearly within the smoke.
Yeah, it was definitely cool. I thought for a minute, like, maybe she might use, like, a bat to do, like, echolocation, but I thought that the bird was much cooler. It was either a hawk or an eagle, one of the two.
Yeah. Well, from what I know about Vixen's powers, she can only access animal spirits of animals that she's come into contact with. So as much as people are making jokes about, why can't she be a fox, or why can't she be or like you said, a bat, or what did someone post on the Facebook page, a weasel or something? And so she has to come into contact with those animals to be able to access their animal spirits. So maybe at this point, maybe she doesn't have a lot of animals in her repertoire. I don't know. Who knows?
That's true, yeah. I don't know. That'll be something interesting to keep an eye out on. Because, like, I think in Shogun, she turned into a lion. Used I think it was a lion animal spirit.
Right.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. So
different than the gorilla that she tends to go to.
Well, it kind of makes sense. I mean, if she's getting into a fight with either a handful of guys or one big strong guy, she needs to up her strength and her.
So, yeah, I agree.
A gorilla definitely gives her that.
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely understand why it's a go-to.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It'd be neat if she, because in the Vixen cartoon series, she accesses the cheetah and momentarily outruns Flash because he wasn't expecting it.
Oh, cool.
Well, you watched, I thought I gave you all the Vixen episodes. Didn't you watch them yet? You've got to. Then you might find a little bit more of an attachment to her.
Yeah. No, actually, I'm actually really enjoying her character, this incarnation of it.
Yeah.
What we saw on Arrow, but on Arrow it was like kind of rushed and like squeezed into the episode, so you didn't get a good appreciation. I know it's a different, like two different characters essentially. But I'm liking this version. I think it's cool.
Well, if you watch the cartoon, it actually, I think it's in the beginning of it, or she goes back, but it goes back to her home village in Africa, where you see her mom, and you find out a lot of history about where their power came from and stuff like that. So there's a good origin there that will teach you a little bit more about her.
I'll watch.
There's like 8 episodes, and the entire thing is 10 minutes long, because they're only like a minute and a half each. So
I keep forgetting how short it is. I'm expecting them to be like 30 minutes long. But
yeah.
So we're back at the White House, and we kind of see Professor Stein and Jax wandering about the White House, as they, because that can totally happen.
Totally.
And all of a sudden, he almost literally runs into himself. And Jax is like, well, I thought you weren't supposed to be here. And he has because he has no memory of being there. And he says, well, I guess I wasn't supposed to be, but this aberration must be causing ripples throughout time. And so technically, it's actually happened to him, because it's happening now within the aberration, but it hasn't flowed throughout history to kind of spin itself through time. So as far as he knows, he never did that, but his current younger self is now walking towards him in the White House. So it makes for kind of an interesting scene.
Well, it was kind of funny, because it brought back an actor from season 1 that played his younger self. So again, that kind of connects everything. It not only connects our 2 seasons, but it connects our characters and what they've been doing in all these episodes and in our story arcs. It's kind of cool. Everything is really connecting, and again, it's all due to the writers. Fantastic job.
I agree. They're doing a great job this season.
Yeah. And then, of course, who do we see show up in the next scene? We see Damien Darhk is also at the White House.
Of course he is.
Well, there's the aberration right there. And it turns out that he's working for the president as kind of an advisor of some sort.
Yeah, it looks like I don't know what he's advising him on or how he finagled that position, but somehow he has. And so we know that Sara wants to kill him, and now Sara knows that he's in the White House. And so, of course, she goes after him.
Yeah, and this takes us back to both of our first impressions. I was kind of disappointed in Sara here. Once again, just throwing everything out to the wind. Like, she just takes her earpiece out and decides to go after Darhk again. Like, without thinking. It's just pure emotional reaction. It's like, Sara, come on, what are you doing? Have you not learned from episode to episode?
Especially after her speech to Jax about not changing history, which he definitely throws in her face.
Exactly.
And because I think he says at some point, he's like, so it's okay to change history if it's for your personal gain, if it benefits your family, but it's not okay if it benefits me.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. And this is kind of a theme that I think all the DC TV shows are dealing with, because that's on the Flash right now.
That's true.
Cisco is really upset with Barry, because Barry's running back and forth in the time stream fixing things for him, but he's not willing to help out Cisco and save his brother.
Exactly.
So it's a common theme right now, and it's a great theme to use to cause a lot of tension between our characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely doing it. But so, of course, someone has to come and stop her, because she can't kill Damien Darhk in the middle of the White House.
No.
So Ray and Mick kind of pop up, and this gets to be really interesting, because they both have their guns and they're firing at people, and then all of a sudden Ray crosses his stream with Rory's.
Now, before I react to that, here's a minor nitpick. Where the heck were their guns? They didn't have them in the scene right before it when they're walking into the White House.
They hid them under their jackets.
Yeah, big gun like that. Minor nitpick right there.
Well, I think that's valid. TV.
True. Yes. But anyway, it was kind of funny because Ray starts firing and Mick's like, so, are we fighting or are we running? And Ray's like, fight. That's music to Mick's ears right there.
Oh, seriously.
But
he gets mad at him. He's like, well, you said we don't follow the rules. He's like, there's one rule.
Exactly, right when they cross the streams. Because did we see that before? I think we saw that on the Flash when they crossed the streams, right?
I think so.
It's the last time we saw that. That's how the Flash actually beat them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he made them cross those streams.
Yeah, and again, but it's a great Ghostbusters reference, which is also an iconic 80s movie.
That's what it was. I was trying to remember for the beginning. It's Ghostbusters. Yeah. I even put it in here.
So I should have said, "Where's Egon and Ray and all the names from those guys too." So yeah, so they cross the streams and there's a big explosion and Mick has a little bit of a fit on Ray there, but it was still pretty funny.
Oh yeah, no, it was great. He totally just lays into him.
And then after that, then Firestorm comes flying in,
which was pretty cool.
Which is pretty cool. I mean, it seems to me that he's got more control now. Like he can control how far out his flaming hands or whatever the fire part of his effect is. He can control how far out it is. He can control the trail of it, it seems, because you'd think flying through an enclosed building down the hallway like that, he might be igniting a lot of things on fire. Just with the trail he leaves behind. I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, but so we kind of have to take things like that. But
and he also has control over how strong of a blast he can shoot out too, because he was just kind of firing stun shots.
That's true.
Against the White House security.
Yeah. That was definitely interesting. We saw a lot of different neat things that he could do, just in this scene. And then, so, this one effect where they kind of, slowed down the bullets, what was that? Because at first, and I know this is not what happened, but at first it looked like time was slowing down, and so I thought for a minute Reverse Flash was going to pop up. And then that didn't happen, so that was a new Firestorm ability, but what was he doing? Yeah, good question, because
at first I was like, okay, they're just slowing it down for us, the viewers, to be able to see what's going on, because he put up some type of force field that the bullets were bouncing off of. So was it an effect so that we could see what was happening, to make it look really cool, or was that force field that he put up, did it somehow affect time as well and slow everything down?
I think it might have been more of an effect. It was just given the context of what we know about the show and what we've seen from him, I automatically go to the fact that there's a speedster around and he's slowed down time, because that's, the normal effect for that.
Right.
But I don't think that's necessarily what happened, but I think they were trying to slow it down so we could see what his new trick is, for lack of a better way to put it. But I still don't know exactly what he did.
Okay, well, yeah, so I'll agree with you that they slowed it down for us so that we could enjoy that moment. But what was he actually doing? Because we know Firestorm has a transmuting ability. So was he transmuting the particles in the air?
Perhaps. That would make more sense.
Okay, so say that that's what he was doing. We didn't know he could do that. Where did that come from? It just out of nowhere he knew how to do it, or was it reactionary?
I think he's been developing his powers, and we're just going to start seeing maybe some new tricks without actually necessarily seeing how he has learned to do them.
Yeah, probably. I'd like to have a little bit of explanation. That would be cool.
A little explanation, yeah, would be nice. But
yeah.
It was a cool effect, that's for sure.
And then, right from that, did you notice Mick and Ray diving out the window?
Oh, yeah, that was really funny. Again, something that couldn't happen. But neither can Rocket Man, or however it is that they term him in the news bulletin. That was so funny.
That was pretty funny, yeah. So, but they all escape and they get out of there.
They do, and then we see them on the Waverider watching themselves in the news.
Yes, the chaos at the Capitol.
I thought this was great. We finally got to see that there are very real consequences for the outing themselves in an era with, I mean, basically modern technology.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not as modern as we're currently used to, but modern enough that they could capture what they did on video and in pictures, and people were talking about it.
Right.
You gotta be careful. You can't. This is why you can't do this stuff.
Well, and that's kind of my nitpick, so I'll say more about it later. But yeah, exactly. It's just that I like that we're seeing consequences of it now, which is cool.
I do too. By the way, your cat is really loud.
Well, she's part of the podcast now.
We've got a podcast.
Podcat. Love it.
Yeah, I can't take credit for that. Anybody else who ever listened to the 10th Wonder podcast knows where I just took that from.
Oh, okay. Well, my other cat's name is Cyber, and I often call him Cybercat.
Nice.
And that's what this whole thing is named after, Cybercast. So we got Cybercat, and now we got Podcat.
Okay. Well, anyway, back to your regularly scheduled podcast.
Yes.
At this point, this is where our team starts bickering, and so this is where we get that argument between Jax and Sara, where Jax is like, so you can change history if it's for your personal vendetta. And that, again, this to me sounded, and this is kind of in my nitpick section, but it sounded a lot like Rip. Mm-hmm. Sara, I mean, did she not only learn from his mistakes? I mean, you gotta put your team first, not your revenge. I thought we had established this, but...
She needed a bit of a slapping around there, I would say. Or shaking, whatever. Wake her up, like, what are you doing, Sara? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, she knew we ended all of them in prison.
Yeah. Which, I mean, eventually we'll get to that point, but I mean, Stein does eventually kind of... He has a good speech to her.
He does, yeah.
That it out of her. Yeah. When did the scene happen when Mick's telling him to be cool and try to be cool? Was that before the whole White House attack?
Yeah, that was earlier when we were talking about it. That was that scene with the beer, and then when we were talking about the quotes, that is actually when that happened, was earlier.
Right.
And so here, I feel like they're just having a conversation because we know how Ray keeps talking about wanting to tweak the gun. Mm-hmm. He's like, if I could just do this, this, and this, and Rory's like, the gun is not the problem, you're the problem. I feel so bad for him because he can't, he's not able to, embrace this new personality. He's not able to be smart. He needs to be himself, which he figures out by the end of the episode. But
right, and this was all in the on the main bridge of the Waverider that this was happening, because they were all discussing what just went wrong, what happened.
Yeah.
So, and then, I mean, you've got Stein and Sara kind of having a bit of a disagreement, because they were kind of blaming Sara mostly and blaming a little bit on Ray as to why that whole situation just totally went the wrong way. And Sara was actually pretty cruel. She had quite some poison on her tongue towards Stein, telling him that he never really cared about anyone.
I know. I thought that was a little unnecessarily.
It was harsh.
Yeah, I didn't feel like it was called for.
Yeah, I mean, especially because we know Stein is, throughout this episode, he's dealing with his younger self ignoring his future wife. Mm-hmm. So we know there's people that Stein cares about, and we know that he cares about the team. So for Sara to come, she had no place in saying that to him, really.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I thought she was out of line. Mm-hmm. But then, so after this point where we've kind of got most of our team back on board the Waverider arguing, mm-hmm. we cut back to Vixen and to Nate, and so basically they're talking with Obsidian back in the JSA and trying to figure out what happened, like why does the JSA not exist anymore, and we learned that they went on a mission in 1956 to Leipzig and they never made it back. They all died there. And for reasons we learned later, Obsidian was not invited or allowed, or however you want to look at that, go on the mission.
Some trust issues or something. He didn't really give a lot of detail. He wasn't trusted.
Yeah, he wasn't, and I felt like that was alluding to the reveal we got at the end of the episode where we find out that he's gay. But I could totally be wrong. I got the feeling that that was connected.
Interesting, yeah, and being in the 50s, yeah, possibly.
So, but yeah, so we don't really know what happened to them. But
no, not yet. So that might be a whole new episode. I mean, he just told them in 1956 we went here, they never made it back. Well, our team might decide they want to go change that part of history.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see if this little piece of information comes back. I felt like it kind of like cuts away from the main storyline, but I felt like it was really important to mention.
Right. But then from that, like this episode did jump around a little bit, but we're trying to cover it as it goes through. And that takes us to the next scene with Ray and Mick on a stakeout, waiting for Dark to show up because they find out back on the Waverider that he has a meeting set up with one of the Russian KGB agents.
So this is just a very interesting set of scenes, some really great scenes. So the first part you have is just kind of like Ray and Mick are bonding a little bit, and then you realize like what's going on, that he's realizing that he keeps telling Ray to be more like Snart because he misses Snart, and then when Ray keeps trying to do it and he's not doing it well, he's just realizing more and more and more like how much he misses him, and it's bringing up a lot of unresolved feelings.
That was probably one of the best scenes of the episode because he couldn't even say the word feelings. He's like, quit, you're making me think of him, you remind me of him, and it's making me bring up and Ray's like, feelings? He's like, yeah, just stop it, be yourself.
Like, shut up.
Shut up. Oh, he said shut up so many times, but yeah, this poor Ray in this scene, because he's wearing Snart's jacket, and he's like, I thought I could try to, get into the role a little bit more, and, and then of course we get that, this was almost one of the quotes I wanted you to use too, was they're sitting there having almost this lover's quarrel in the car, and Mick turns on the radio, and it's that love song from the 80s.
I know.
And he punches the radio. I hate the 80s.
I hate the 80s.
I know. That was fantastic.
But yeah, so this, as funny as it was kind of, it did tug on the heartstrings a little bit, because we have never seen Mick like this, and we've been saying in previous podcasts that he's starting to soften up a little bit. He's starting to expose a bit of what's inside him, and this really brought some stuff to light, that he is really feeling alone without his best friend, without Snart around. So I think that's going to really lead into some pretty dramatic scenes when Snart does eventually come back. And he's not going to be the Snart that we have grown to love and the Snart that Mick knows. It's going to be a different Snart. So I think that's really, really going to be... I don't know which way they're going to go with it, but wow, I'm looking forward to that.
I know. I'm really excited for that, too.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I want Snart to come back. I miss him.
Yeah, I mean, look at last season. What was our quote of the season that everybody picked? Was the one when Mick went back in time to say goodbye to Snart, and he said, I just wanted you to know that you're the greatest guy I ever knew, and you're a hero to me.
You're the best guy I ever knew. You may not think you're a hero, but you're a hero to me. You got that?
Yeah, I got it.
See you around.
Oh. Yeah.
That whole scene. So they're really tying in the buddy connection between Snart and Rory here.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And they're doing it without even Snart even being on the show. So that's what I mean. Wait until he comes back. Holy cow, this is going to be crazy.
I know. It's going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what's next?
Well, the reason they're there on the stakeout. You've got Dark in the middle of a park meeting with a KGB agent, which is not good news at all.
No, it's definitely not good news. And what's even worse news is that someone has followed Dark.
He really was not the brightest character back when he was younger, was he?
Nope. Someone who's very young and very stupid.
He knew his science, but that's about all he knew.
Yeah. So who shows up? Of course, Martin Stein, the young Martin Stein. And we're like, really, dude, what are you doing? You have just interrupted. I mean, and this whole scene was great. If it wasn't, again, this is another one of those, like, serious ones, but, like, the situational, like, comedy of it to me was just so funny.
Yeah.
A weird, off, dark kind of way. Because you see him slowly, as he just keeps talking and talking and talking, he slowly realizes what's going on. And he's like, so let's just forget that this happened. And Dark's like, yeah, that's not gonna happen.
And then stabs him.
I know.
Talk about the shocking moment of the episode. I could see Dark was getting pissed off at him, but then as soon as he stood up and kind of faced him down, and then he stabbed him. And you see it jumps back to the older Stein as he doubles over and has this massive blood patch.
Yeah.
And this brings to, I think there's a lot of people talking about it on Facebook, because you're thinking, well, he stabs the younger Stein. Why is the older Stein suddenly bleeding and doubling over in pain? How do we explain that? What's up this timey-wimey stuff? We gotta figure this out, Harley.
Okay, so I had a thought, and then as soon as I was about to post it on Facebook, and then I decided not to, because I wanted to think about it a little bit more, and I figured we would just address it on the podcast. But my initial thinking was that we have to remember that this particular point in history never actually happened to our Dr. Stein, and so everything that's happening is brand new. So as best as I can figure, when young Martin Stein gets stabbed, that is something totally brand new that never happened to our Martin Stein. So it kind of like reverberates through time.
Really fast.
Yeah. And so the thing that's confusing though is like you can almost kind of say, well, why would he be bleeding? Because it's not like he actually got stabbed. Wouldn't maybe just like a scar appear or something? Mm. And so I kind of was having like a mini argument with myself. But I mean, basically how I'm kind of trying to think about it is that this never actually happened to our Dr. Stein. So it's basically happening to him as it happened to young Stein. And so that's why he was bleeding.
Well, let me throw in, someone mentioned, could it be because of the proximity? Because they're both there in the same time period at the same time. Could that play into it a little bit too?
It could, yeah, because it doesn't have to reverberate anywhere. They're both in the same time period, so you see the instantaneous effects instead of maybe him being in 2016 where it would reverberate through and maybe then you would just see a scar. You wouldn't see, like, he wouldn't be, like, bleeding or whatever.
Right. And I think also, if you remember Nate, when Nate's necklace disappeared, that happened pretty fast too. So I think it's along that lines that if they affect something right there and then, or something happens to them right there and then, because they are there in that time period when something happened or something was affected, it'll hit them immediately.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, I mean, to try to explain away why the older Stein was bleeding right away, I'm going to say it's just proximity, because it never happened to him before. Mm-hmm. He was right there, and they need to get when they were in the medical bay there, I don't think they actually had to do anything to the older Stein. They just kind of, it was the younger guy that they had to kind of stitch up or something, wasn't it? Or did they not really, am I adding stuff that wasn't really there?
No, I don't think they did much other than just, like, make him comfortable to our Dr. Stein.
Right.
I mean, yeah, no, they weren't doing anything for him. I'm pretty sure they were just making him comfortable while they were working on younger Martin.
Okay. Well, there we go. I mean, it was... What's that?
I said unless I missed the same thing you did, but...
Yeah. Well, I think we half enough explained it away. It's not so timey-wimey, because, that's our job. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, I would agree. But while we're talking about the two Steins, I mean, it hasn't taken young Stein long to figure out that they're time travelers, because he recognizes the Dr. Stein, or our Dr. Stein.
Well, he remembers everything, because they never erased his memory when we saw him in the season 1. They let him walk off the ship, like, go to Clarissa, she's waiting for you, and he walks off the ship.
Exactly.
So he always knew he remembered everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. Like, I don't know why, for some reason, I thought that he didn't he didn't realize that who Dr. Stein was, that he didn't realize that was really him.
Right.
He knew, I guess, that they were time travelers.
Right.
I was just surprised when he said, when he said something along the lines of, you're taking me to see me, or you're me, or something like that.
Yeah.
I was, expecting him to say that. But, anyway, the next thing that we kind of figure out is that they need to get to the state dinner, because that is where they learned that, so a bunch of things are going down with Damien Darhk.
Right.
And so Nate and Amaya go and see if Obsidian will help them get into this dinner, because he has a lot of contacts in the government, because, when he's part of the JSA, they were pretty top secret, and they worked very closely with and for the government.
Right.
And so they're going to try and talk him into letting them in, and then they get in this conversation, and we learn some very interesting things about Rex and Amaya.
We do.
So we learn why she was so upset, and why she stowed away, and why she tried to kill Mick, because she was in love with Rex. They were gonna leave the JSA after the war was over and start their own life, and then Reverse Flash killed him.
She was pretty upset about that then, for sure.
Yeah. So that explains why she basically let emotions cloud her judgment, and that's kind of what Obsidian was saying the whole time, is that, you're very emotional about this, and he didn't want to get them into this state dinner. He didn't really want to help them, because he was afraid that she wouldn't be able to remain professional. But eventually, they convince him to get into dinner, so that works out. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had an ending to our story here.
No, not at all.
Yeah, there's that. So.
Alright, so going from that scene with them figuring out how to get into the White House, before they take off, there's a nice little sequence with Ray and Stein, when Stein's still on the medical chair there. Because Ray's struggling with he's struggling with himself and his identity of who he is and what's his meaning in life, kind of thing. So there's just a nice little wisdom being passed down from Martin to Ray, and it's a nice moment. I actually pulled one of our quotes from that scene.
Yeah, it was really nice. I really liked the scenes. So, these next couple scenes, I don't even know if they qualify as scenes, but you kind of get, I think this is also Dr. Stein, and he's talking to Sarah. You're no longer an assassin, you're a captain. And I thought that was very true and very well stated, and she needed to hear it, and she needs to act like it.
Yeah, that was the moment we were alluding to when he kind of put her in her place a little bit.
Exactly, yeah. And so, they're going into this state dinner. They know that Damien Darhk is going to be there, and the ultimate goal is to stop him, but she also can't kill him. So they get all ready to go in their get up, and you see them walking down the hall, and what are they playing?
Danger Zone. And that calls back to what I said in the beginning, probably the best single scene in this entire series for me, because it was just awesome.
I mean, song, the timing, it was perfect. I had to mention it because it was awesome. But anyway, so this is kind of like the last scene, and a lot of this stuff is kind of just one big action sequence. And you have there's a lot of different things that end up to be going on, but so the first thing that we learn is that Darhk is trading defense secrets for some mysterious object in a little black box. And I really
want to talk about what that is right now?
I would love to know what it is. I have no idea what it is. Do you know what it is? Did I miss something?
Yeah, I have no clue what could possibly be in that box.
And it was small.
Yeah, I mean, he got the axe earlier in the episode, and now he's got something else for payment.
Yeah. I mean, we know it's not the idol, because it's tiny.
Yes. It's just something else he's collecting. He's obviously a collector of these relics, and I don't know if it's because he thinks one of them might be the idol that gives him power. But that theory might not make sense when we're talking about Reverse Flash offering him true power, and it's possibly Reverse Flash that gives him the idol, or teaches him about connecting to the idol to get the magical ability that he has. If that's the case, then him looking for all these relics might not be because he's looking for that magical power. It could be a different reason.
That's true. And I wonder if that might be where they're going with it. We're just kind of like not making an assumption, but an educated guess based on what we know about his future. But yeah, they could definitely be going in a totally different direction. Actually, I hope they are going in a totally different direction, to be honest. So
Yeah, exactly.
we'll just have to see how that plays out.
But we get to, this finally brings us to our first action sequence of the episode, because other than the Reverse Flash taking out all those guys early on, there really wasn't much happening, and I almost didn't notice, because the episode flowed really nicely.
Yeah, it did. I agree.
I didn't until this fight sequence in the warehouse happened, I didn't actually realize that we hadn't had one yet, so that was good. But this fight scene was actually well done. It was pretty cool. And I have to say, you said it here too, but man, as soon as Nate turned into Citizen Steel, I had a blast watching him, because it's like he's learning to fight every episode. He seems to be getting a little bit better, and just seeing him change to steel and back to human, back to steel, the sound effect when he whacks guys, it's just got that steel clang.
Oh, I know, it was great. It was awesome. I loved everything about that.
And then, the fight's almost over, and he notices a chest or something. I didn't catch the name, but it's like, oh, look at that, it's the chest of so-and-so. How cool. And then one of the soldiers crashes on it, and he's like, all right, that's it, I've had enough.
I know, yeah, it was some, famous historical person, I'm sure. I didn't quite catch the name on what he said. It was someone's hope chest, and I was like, oh, well, that's cool. Probably, some probably famous first lady, I would imagine.
Right.
But, yeah, it gets destroyed, and he's like, oh, come on.
He did so well. I'm just enjoying the Steel character, whether he's Nate or he turns into Citizen Steel. He's just playing it up so well. They're really writing for him. He's the comedy of this show right now. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, he totally is. I'm really enjoying him. So throughout this fight scene, we kind of learned that there's a bomb upstairs, which I don't think we had previously known about. So we've got Ray and Mick kind of trying to save the day up there, and they're trying. I love how Mick, he tries to point his gun and scare people out of the ballroom, and everybody just kind of looks at him. They're like, what is happening?
Well, it was great because he walks in there trying to be all mean and scary. He's like, everybody get out of here now. Yeah. And everyone just looks at him, and then Ray comes in all cool and suave and kind of looking like he belongs at the White House, and he's like, now that we have your attention, ladies and gentlemen, please exit the building because there's a bomb here.
And everybody runs.
And everybody freaks out. But I think, just to interject, I think they had a couple scenes before that, they had found out that Damien Darhk had planted a bomb, because I think it was Dark that actually said, I planted a bomb, I'm going to kill everybody, so try and stop that. Something along those lines.
Yeah, okay.
So that's why there was a bomb there.
Yeah, and it was right around, the time of, when they were fighting everybody. I think it might have been just before that, probably when he was getting, the relic or whatever.
Yeah, it was down in the warehouse, right.
Yeah. But I like that it was Ray that got to end up saving the day, using science. So, he got to have his new superpower be his brain, instead of, feeling like he was left out for not having a super suit, or feeling like he's not a real hero, or being forced to use the cold gun. He just used his brain, and so that was nice and refreshing, and, with the usual clock ticking down time trope, of course, but, he saves the day and everybody doesn't blow up.
Well, see, time trope, at least the clock didn't stop on 1 second like all the movies do. It had 3 seconds left, so that's a nice little difference. But I just loved that it was Mick that was kind of shaking him. Like, okay, stop being Captain Cold. Be yourself, Ray. Use that brain of yours. Be yourself. You can science your way out of this. Or what? How did he word it?
You're Ray Palmer. You can science your way out of anything. I wrote it down. Anyway, yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah, he's something about you can science. You're Ray Palmer. You can science your way out of this. And he's like, I am Ray Palmer. I'm Ray Palmer. And then he kind of has a little light bulb go off. Then, hey, if I can take this and this, and I need an outside source, whatever. He did science his way out of it. And it was great. I just loved that it was Mick giving him that buddy support, that kick in the butt that he needed to shake him out of it. In that whole moment, because we've been seeing Ray struggle with it this whole episode up to this point, and in that one moment of panic and crisis, he finds himself, and he, like you said, he's the one who saves the day by figuring out a way to disarm the bomb. And then, as that's happening, probably the funniest moment in the entire episode. I mean, me and Patty were just giggling ourselves like crazy here. It's, the clock's ticking down on the bomb. Ray's trying to figure it all out, and Mick just sits back on his butt, grabs a donut, and he's like, I guess there's worse ways to die than this. Starts munching on the donut, and he's totally chilled, totally relaxed. And then Ray ends up stopping the bomb, and he's all panicked and sweating, and I did it. And Mick's just like, keeps eating the donut.
That was a great scene.
Oh, loved it. Best. Yeah, I think Mick is by far my favorite character on this show.
So, after this, we kind of go back into the warehouse, and everyone's kind of going after Dark so that he doesn't get away. And it was interesting that Obsidian was going after Dark. I guess I wasn't really expecting that to happen. And then you see Amaya catches that, or Vixen, sorry, whatever you want to call her. But so she kind of follows, and she's like, what's going on? And then Dark, goes to shoot her, and then Obsidian kind of jumps in the way and takes that bullet for her. So that was kind of nice. Well,
I liked right before that when Dark takes a shot at Obsidian, and he goes in the smoke form, and the bullet goes right through him, and just Dark's reaction, he's like, huh. Because he hadn't witnessed that before, and he, at the same time he was thinking, well, that's pretty neat. He's also quite interested in that.
Oh, definitely. I think so.
But yeah, then Vixen comes in at the wrong time, and you see, and this just shows how smart Dark is, because just in that real quick moment, Dark realizes, I'm going to take a shot at her, and he's going to want to step in to protect her. Kind of he just pieced it together real quick. And sure enough, that's what happens.
Exactly, yeah. So that was just kind of a cool sequence. Although I was confused at first about why Obsidian was going after him, but I think it was just so that he didn't get away. But yeah,
I think so.
Cool. So then we get the confrontation we've been waiting for between Sara and Damien Darhk. I mean, his first words out of his mouth is, "You haven't aged a bit, Lazarus Pit." Oh my God, that's so funny.
Well, it just ties in Arrow and exactly where she came from, and the whole works.
It totally does. And so that was great. But then, so they have kind of this it's kind of a long conversation, all things considered. And she's telling him everything that happens to him in the future. It's like, I don't have to kill you, I can let this go because I know everything that happens to you in the future, and I know that you ultimately fail and that you die alone. And she tells him literally everything that's going to happen to him. And I was like, okay.
Well, let's leave. I believe that's your nitpick, so let's not get too heavily into it.
Yeah.
Because I'm feeling what you're feeling. Yeah, at the moment of that scene happening, I was like, what? Okay, Sarah, you were upsetting me with your behavior for the first chunk of the episode, and then you kind of righted yourself after Stein, put you in your place, and she said, she said to Ray, I shouldn't be around Dark right now, so you guys go in and deal with this. So I was like, okay, she's smart enough, she's figured it out, and then right again, she's right back to this stupid giving away all this information. I'm like, what are you doing? This is not a smart play.
Yeah,
instead of going after Dark spontaneously just because she spots him and going after him for revenge. She's now verbally getting revenge because in her mind she's still thinking revenge, she's still feeling revenge. So instead of attacking him and trying to kill him, she's now thinking, oh, if I reveal to him everything about his future and how wrong it goes and that I'm going to get him eventually, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He'll spend the next 40 years stressing and panicking and being worried about it. It's another way of her trying to get revenge on him, and it showed us that she still hadn't figured it out yet and learned her lesson.
Yeah, exactly.
There's that, I mean, just as that's happening, then we got,
the reverse flash comes speeding through.
Yeah, well, because it was right when she was talking to him. She was busy telling him all that stuff, then all of a sudden reverse flashes comes and whisks him away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because she has the comment, oh, he's faster than the Flash. I was like, that's funny.
Which is kind of funny, yeah.
Yeah.
But you could see the worry on her face, though. She acknowledges, wait, this time traveler we've been chasing is a speedster? Uh-oh.
Yeah, I was surprised they didn't know it was the Reverse Flash.
Well, I was trying to make the connection. I don't know if Sarah Lance actually knows anything about Reverse Flash. She was not involved with any of the crossover, any of the stuff when Reverse Flash was around in Season 2.
Oh, okay.
Or in Season 1, I mean. Yeah. I don't think Sarah had anything to do with that, so she wouldn't know anything about it.
Oh yeah, that's right, because she was dead. There's just a couple little things here at the end, like when Nate wants to hug Sarah to celebrate.
Yeah, that was a fun little sequence too, which I think we have part of that in our quotes. That was just fun.
Yeah, that was fun. And then, before we get to the final scene, because I feel like we're probably going to want to talk a little bit about that, we get these last things, with Martin and his younger self, and he's talking kind of about the type of work that he was doing, and it was transmutation work. Mm-hmm. So him and Jax are essentially, right? So I didn't realize that was what he was working on. Has that always been what Dr. Stein, quote unquote, was working on, or is this a new endeavor for...
Do you mean long back when we first met him on the Flash?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I don't either. Okay. I just was curious how the transmutation...
I thought he was working on time travel and other dimensions and stuff like that.
Yeah, see, I thought he was too. So now his younger self is working on transmutation, which, I just thought that was a really interesting tie-in, considering that's what him and Jax essentially do. Alright,
well, this takes us to the end scene, which I think dropped everybody's jaw.
Yes.
Because Reverse Flash takes Dark to some other type of hangar factory area and promises him, or is holding true to his promise from earlier in the episode, that he can give him ultimate power.
Mm-hmm.
And he reveals this round capsule pod, whatever you want to call it, which, for those of you that are Flash viewers, if you remember, is what he also had in the first season of The Flash when he was disguised as Harrison Wells and he wanted to send himself back into the future, back to his own timeline. That was the same round pod that he put himself in, and Flash was supposed to open the time portal. Or not the time portal, the dimensional portal to... Yeah, the time portal to send him back to the future.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I said it's the return of the time sphere thing.
Time sphere thing, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a better term for it. Boy.
I don't know what else to call it. But yeah, it was the same one from The Flash. I was like, okay, that's cool. So that was a nice little tie-in back to season 1 of The Flash.
Mm-hmm.
Where is he sending him? Where is he going? Is he going to the future? Is he going to the past? I don't know.
Well, did he send him? Reverse Flash didn't go. He just ran fast enough in circles to open the portal, and then the little time sphere thing got sucked in, and Reverse Flash stayed behind, because anytime on The Flash when we see them opening their time portals or dimensional doors to the other Earths, Flash just has to grab onto the person and he can carry them with him. So why does Damien Darhk have to sit inside this pod thing?
I don't know. That's a good question, and so I'm wondering if they need the pod thing for some other purpose. I mean, there's got to be a reason that they need it. Otherwise, you're right, he should have just ran with him. Unless he's sending him somewhere and he's not, and in the Reverse Flash, he's not going with him.
That's, Yeah, that's one of the points I meant. That's what I was wondering about.
Yeah, no, I think that's the trick. I think he's sending him somewhere without actually going with him. Otherwise, he would just have grabbed him and ran.
Which I'd like to address. When he grabs somebody and runs with them, there are so many people... Sorry, Legendaries, this is a little bit of flash talk. There are so many people that are complaining on Facebook or even in their voicemail feedbacks and stuff that when you listen to Central City Underground, that people keep saying, well, why doesn't Barry Allen's clothes burn up when he runs? And why when he grabs Cisco, doesn't Cisco get, whiplash, or is his clothes light on fire as well? And people are constantly complaining that because how Flash runs, he should end up being naked or whatever. And things aren't faked. And even the Central City Underground guys, Joe and Tony complain about it, and they're like the Flash experts, and it amazes me. I'm so shocked that they should know, but I want to inform everybody else here, because I'm sure it's the same for Reverse Flash. When the speedsters run, the Speed Force they have like a Speed Force field around their body. Like the Speed Force creates a protective barrier around their entire body, protecting them from the speeds. Otherwise, their eyeballs would melt. Everything, they would burn up from going that fast. So the Speed Force itself creates a protective layer over them, which also protects their clothes and also protects anything or anyone that they happen to carry when they run.
So, that makes a lot of sense. And I've been wondering about this kind of myself, is because, there was a point that they do kind of show his clothes kind of catch on fire, and I thought maybe it was kind of just like a fun thing. But then, I was kind of thinking about it. I was like, technically that is what would happen. So I'm glad that you kind of gave that explanation that kind of explains how it works, for lack of a better way to explain it.
Well, who else should know but the Flash himself, right? I think I kind of figured it out by now.
Exactly. I bet you educated all of us, because everybody has been harping on it a lot, and so it's been kind of like in my mind. I'm like, okay, well, but really, how does that work?
Exactly. So I wanted to clear that up.
Yeah.
And tying it back to what was the point that we brought up? Why I decided to say that?
Oh, because we were talking about why Damien Darhk didn't return with Thawne, why he didn't take him with him.
Oh,
and
right.
He was in the time sphere and that sort of stuff.
So that means tying that back to why Damien Darhk was in the time sphere, because I'm guessing that Reverse Flash wasn't going with them. Therefore, he wouldn't have that protection from the Speed Force on him. So they built this time sphere so that he can survive the travel.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I like that.
That's my sciencing the way out of this.
We're going with science.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that got us through the entire episode. That's the end of it there. So.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
There was a lot. We've actually been talking for quite a bit. So.
Yeah, we have.
This gets us to our nitpicks of the week.
Form of water.
All right. Well, we kind of already touched on mine quite a bit, but I'll just kind of reiterate here. Okay. This is where Sara was revealing too much of Dark's future. she literally told him everything basically everything that happened to him on last season of Arrow in, a quick little 1-minute recap. And I was just like, that's really just not going to be a good thing to do. Because we saw that Thawne was about to kind of do it at the beginning of the episode, and then he kind of checks himself and he's like, well, you don't want to know too much about your future. And so I was like, especially after Sarah's speech to Jax about, not changing the past or not changing history, then she goes and just tells him, first she wants to kill Damien Darhk, and then when we convince her not to do that, she tells him everything about his future. And I don't know, I just felt like that was counterproductive to what they're trying to do.
Well, that and Damien Darhk is just way too smart to have that kind of info. To have any knowledge of his future at all, he's way too smart.
Yeah, he's going to definitely try and change his future.
Exactly, and it's not smart of Sara at all to be mentioning any of it. So she should have known better, but again, I think revenge is the emotion that's driving her anytime she sees him.
Yeah, that's very true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what was your nitpick?
Well, like you, I think this is a testament to how strong the writing is this season, because we have not been able to come up with a very solid nitpick.
That's true.
Like we did last season, where we found something that just got under our skin and just, they need to fix this. Mm-hmm. So, again, it's more just of a concern, and mine is about the team keeps using their powers and weapons in public places with witnesses everywhere, as well as around government officials and security and the military or whatever, without any concern for the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
So they're almost doing it every episode now.
Yeah, they are, and that was kind of starting to bother me too. But
yeah, but
that's the show we signed up for, so.
But I also wonder, just to kind of save my own point, maybe in the 80s people are used to seeing superpowers because everybody seems to know about the Justice Society of America anyway. So they know there's superpower beings out there, so maybe them flying around at this time period isn't as bad as it would be in the past.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Mm-hmm.
But still,
anyway,
they should probably be a little more stealthy.
A little bit more. But that's all I got. Like I said, the writing is that good that we are having trouble finding nitpicks. I mean, if they're gonna make one of our featured sections obsolete, they should inform us about this.
I know, they should at least consult us.
Well, leading from that, let's get into your favorite, because you did not get to be part of it last week.
I know.
I guess technically a couple days ago, but...
Yeah, well, exactly. But it's time for Quote of the Week.
Quote of the Week.
Shape out an eagle!
Alright, so... we have our winners from last week, and our winning funny quote of the week was Hot Walker.
We're going to die. You just need to calm down. I will not calm down. He was threatening enough before he was one of the walking dead.
I wasn't actually sure which one was going to win last week. There was
Yeah, I think they were tied for a little while.
Mm-hmm. All right, Harley, well, take her away. What do you got for us for funny quotes this week? What's the first one?
All right, so for funny quotes this week, we have McFly.
We're helping by fixing aberrations, not creating them. You're not thinking fourth dimensionally.
Did you really just use Doc Brown on me?
Who the hell is that?
Okay, and what's number 2?
Jelly Bean Thief.
Those are jelly beans.
I can see that.
Those are President Reagan's jelly beans.
So what? Eat them.
What? I'm pretty sure that's against the rules.
We don't follow rules, remember?
Right.
You know, we didn't even talk about that scene. I loved that scene when it's a big jar of red, white, and blue jelly beans, and...
I know. It was a pretty funny scene.
Such a good scene. Alright, what was the third quote?
Dead or alive.
Oh my God, I just killed a member of the Justice Society.
Why are you whispering?
In case he's not dead, he could probably use the nap.
I'm not an invalid. Just old.
I found that one very amusing.
Yeah, that's Nate being Nate is pretty funny. Alright, and our final funny quote of this week.
Permission for affection.
So the Speedster and Dark, they have whatever the KGB gave Dark?
Unless I swiped it off Dark.
Shut up. Can I hug you? Do we hug?
Okay, just this once.
There's gonna be more.
I'm sensing Nate's going to be part of a lot of the funny quotes from here on out.
Yeah, he kind of calls to me. I like it. All right, let's get into the serious quotes.
Okay. Why don't you announce our winner from last week?
All right, our winner from last week was Reassurance.
Don't worry, we're gonna protect you. I know you're scared. I get it. Don't ask me how I know this, but it gets better. Not perfect, nowhere near close, but better than this. But it starts right now with us not giving up.
Yeah, good scene.
That was a very good scene. I think that's the one I voted for too.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what do we have for serious quotes this week? What's the first one?
Alright, our first one is called Canary Cry.
Do you have something you'd like to say to me, Martin?
Yes. That killing Damien Darhk almost 30 years before his actual death will have countless unforeseeable effects on the history that we are charged with protecting.
Well, what about protecting my sister? She brought me back from the dead. She risked everything for me. How could I not do the same for her?
Because you answer to a higher calling, Sarah. I'm sorry, but we cannot stray from our guiding principle.
Well, I'm sorry, too. Sounds like you've never really cared about anyone.
Oh, this one was my personal favorite, I think.
Yes.
So good. Alright, and the second one?
Second one is Identity Crisis.
Problem is, I don't know what being me means right now. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Of course it does. I think everyone struggles, at least on occasion, with who they are and what their place is in the world.
So what's the answer?
I have no idea. But I suppose it's just to live. It's all any of us can really do. And then hopefully, through the act of living, we discover who we truly are and learn to grow from that.
I had trouble. I think that's the one I picked.
I don't know which one I'm going to pick now. Okay, what's our third one?
Third one is Cold Calling.
Listen, Erica, if you want to fit into Snort's shoes, you gotta find the pain, the darkness, the anger. You got it in you.
Call me haircut again, and I'll ice you.
Not bad.
Still a good one.
Good, which maybe not a full-on heavy-duty serious quote. We were talking off air here, and that this one I find it's actually kind of funny, but it's the situation that is serious, and that's why I chose this one.
It's a good one. It's. I'm glad you chose it. I like it.
Okay.
What's our last one?
Our last one for serious quotes this week is Love for Granted.
You, of all people, understand the importance of our research.
I understand the importance of one thing and one thing only. After everything I've accomplished, all the awards I've won.
Did we win the 6 Carly?
The only thing that brings meaning to my life is Clarissa. Yes, Martin, our wife, who you've spent the last 2 days ignoring.
But I love Clarissa.
And I cherish her, Martin. Because I promise you, she is the only thing you will care to remember.
And I promise you, I'll make sure she knows I love her.
I pray that you do.
See, that one's just so sweet.
Aw, yeah. Well, there you go, guys. So, we will get those up on the Facebook page for you. Or I should say, Harley will get them up for you. That's.
I'll try and do it tomorrow morning so that I don't forget.
Yeah.
As seems to be a thing.
Cool. Now it's time for feedback.
Feedback.
Planetary powers, activate!
Well, I wonder if people are busy this week, Harley, because, man, we've been getting just email bagfuls of feedback, and today we only got 2.
I know. I was kind of sad that we didn't get a ton of feedback.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, could be people are busy, maybe. It seems to be...
Maybe people didn't like this episode.
That's what I was saying. You're reading my mind now. Yeah. They didn't like this one as much. There's not as much feedback.
Oh well. Well, let's get what we've got.
All right. Well, we've got one from Green Butterfly, which is unusual.
I know. A written one.
Oh, sorry. We've got 2 email feedbacks. We forget Killer Frost sent us in a last-second voicemail just as we started recording.
Yes, so we have a voicemail to play as well.
Yes. So there we go. All right. Why don't you take Green Butterfly's email away? You can read it.
All right. It says, "Hi, Flash and Harley. Can't send a voice feedback today because we can't let the people at my day job know my secret identity or the fact that time travel exists." The first thing I noticed was all the Miami Vice references. There was both the music, the costume choices. Then our show begins to tackle the issue that all time travel shows must face. There are things in time that are terrible and hurt people. But when you are charged with caring for the timeline, you must sometimes stand by and watch something awful happen to keep the timeline intact. That is quite a burden to bear. Indeed. Mm-hmm. The way Sara looks at Damien, wow, the bloodlust and assassin look in her eyes was amazing. But then see her stop and listen to her team and restrain herself was amazing. Her character development is great. She's evolved so much.
Yeah, most part. Like I said, there's parts of this episode she was kind of taking a sidestep, and it was a little bit hard to watch. But yeah.
That is true. Killing Damien 30 years before he should die would be so bad for the timeline. But what if they traveled to within moments of Laurel's death? Would that work?
Did they not address that when Sara first went after Damien Darhk? I thought they had said something about they can't go back to right before that time period, or right before it happens.
I think they did, but now I'm not remembering why they said that. Yeah. But I do think there was a conversation, because there's a reason he drops them off 3 months later. Mm-hmm. So we may have to go refresh our memories on that. But
possibly.
Anyway, so possibly, but we think no. That we have an explanation, but we can't remember why.
We're just going to tell you it won't work.
Exactly. All right, so she continues. But then Laurel has been now gone for 6 months, and there's been character development based on her loss. So that would also probably produce an alternate timeline. So I feel just as stuck as Sara on this point.
Oh, there you go.
That's true. We kind of answered the question. Right.
Although, I mean, we do know that Katie Cassidy, who played Laurel Lance, has been contracted to appear on all the shows. So this is going to be super interesting what form or what version of her we're going to see. Because The Flash has created an alternate third timeline, and we're not sure which one we are living in right now on our show, Legends.
That is very true. Very, very true. I mean, oh yeah, that's a good point. Okay, we're gonna have to come back to that whole. We'll have to tackle that whole mess another time.
Yeah.
And even think about that being a whole different timeline in play. Ugh. Okay. All right. Let's see what else Justina had to say. Martin got to talk to himself again. That was cool. I'm sure if this was real, we would all want to give our younger selves a little advice. Not you, Martin.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure she's not talking about me, just so you all know. Because I did kind of talk to myself last week after you had to go.
I'm not gonna lie. When I read that sentence, I thought the exact same thing at first, and then I realized what she meant. Double meaning, Justina. All right. Amazing character development for Ray. He doesn't need to be a carbon copy of Snart, and he doesn't have to be defined by his suit as he was as the Atom. Ray Palmer can be a superhero in his own right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Obsidian was so cool. Obsidian was very cool.
He was.
Sara was rocking the crimped hair look that Green Butterfly also enjoyed in 1987. That's amazing.
I think we need to see a picture, Justina.
I was just thinking that. I love that they played Danger Zone because I love that movie. Top Gun, because flying, of course. Oh, Justina, I'm so with you.
Yeah. Come on, Maverick and Goose and Iceman. It was awesome.
Oh, so awesome. Episode gets 9 out of 10 jars of jelly beans that we are going to eat because we don't follow the rules. Have a super week. Love your eye in the sky, Green Butterfly.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of funny. I like how you were reading that as much as you possibly could to sound like her.
I know. There was a couple that I probably could have done a little bit better impression, because I hear her feedback so often. I really could probably mimic her pretty well, but I didn't want to be too over the top.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that she's getting feedback into us, because she does hit up all the shows.
Yeah.
So she's quite a busy little butterfly there, but it's just, she's one of the most positive, uplifting people you'll ever get to listen to or meet. She's an awesome lady.
Yes, she is. Alright, so who do we have next?
Alright, well, next we got an email from, I want to keep calling him Sidekick Denny. You called him out on that.
I did. Did he come up with a superhero?
He has not yet, so I don't know if if he's listened to the last podcast or not.
Alright, fine. Sidekick Denny. I just think we need something more snazzy.
I know, because that's kind of a comedy name, and kind of give him something a little more respectful.
Yeah.
I mean, at work, he's kind of our Ray Palmer. He's the fix-it guy. Anytime he's like the engineering tech at work. So anytime we're on the production floor and we've got our test equipment failing or whatever, we call Denny and he comes running over and basically fixes it. He tech sciences the stuff back together. So.
Well, maybe we'll start calling him the Atom or Ray Palmer or something.
Or a play on that. Some kind of play on that, yeah.
Or we'll just switch it up each week and he'll be something. He'll be a new sidekick every time. He can be Robin.
There you go. New Robin every time. Alright, so he says, "Hello, Wonder Twins. This episode seems to show that Dark and Reverse Flash weren't really allies, which I found surprising. With all that the Reverse Flash has done, I would be thought they were closer allies. I don't recall exactly, but have we actually seen Dark use magic in any of these episodes?" Well, I think we addressed that, because no, he hasn't. We don't think he has his magic ability yet.
Nope.
We talked about that earlier. I am starting to wonder if Dark's totem was obtained with the help of the Reverse Flash. Hopefully now that our legends know that Dark is allied with the Speedster, they will be able to figure something out in order to stop him next time. Well, there you go, Danny. You just addressed exactly what we were talking about already.
We're all on the same page.
Yeah, totally on the same page. What I found weird, though, was that the young Stein's wound somehow rippled through time and affected the older Stein so quickly compared to the other time ripples we've seen. How come our Stein doesn't remember what his younger self has seen, but wounds can travel through time so quickly? Well, I think Harley was addressing exactly that this is a new...
It's a new wound, effectively.
A new moon, a new timeline. This Stein, they've altered something, and the Stein is on a new path that he originally wasn't on, so everything that's happening is happening in real time for the first time, because older Stein has now come to this time period to witness that actually happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and then we did talk about why we thought the wound appeared so quickly. So, Danny, get out of our heads. You're like... And now that both our villains are time traveling, it's not going to look good for our heroes. Once again, we'll have to wait till next episode to find out how things unfold. From Denny. Yeah,
They're
nope.
legends. You can't call them heroes. You gotta listen to the intro.
Yes, they are legends. But yeah, nope. I think those two villains, time traveling, well, we think Reverse Flash may not have gone with them, but it's not good. With Damien knowing about his future and getting put in a space pod, time capsule thingy, sent to the future or wherever he went, yeah, none of that is good.
Yep.
But I agree. It is exciting that this season has got me looking forward to next episode more so than I ever did in the first season.
Yeah, I agree.
Totally. All right, well, let's get to our last minute arrival of a voicemail from Killer Frost.
Hello, all. I give this episode 8 out of 10 blue pantsuits. It might go up if you get the chance to watch it again. I feel the need to commend the writers on continuing to recognize the losses many of the characters have faced recently. Sara lost her sister, Mick lost his best friend, Ray lost the suit that makes him a hero, at least in his eyes, and that's just to name a few. I appreciate that those plot lines were not resolved in just one episode. It was so much fun seeing Sara put Dark in his place. I think you could actually see the fear in his eyes. However, all I could think about was how Dark having that knowledge was going to backfire.
Mm-hmm.
You really should not tell the bad guy how he's going to fail in the future. He will do his best to change it, especially if he is in cahoots with the Reverse Flash.
You are so right.
The future looks bright, and I gotta wear shades. Until next time, Killer Frost.
It was a great sign-off.
That's great, yeah. And again, yeah, I like what you pointed out, that the writers are connecting all the stories, or the writers are connecting all the characters' story arcs, and they're not losing touch with them from episode to episode, and they're not resolving them from episode to episode. That's kind of what we were talking about, and you just put it into much more defined words, which makes sense. And I totally agree with you there.
Yeah, no, I thought that was very well stated and basically summed up, I don't know, probably 30 minutes of something we discussed in like 1 minute.
Yeah. Great summary.
Yeah, no, it was great. Yeah, it was very well stated.
Yeah, so.
Glad you made it in.
You made it in, yeah, she's asking, actually, tagged along with the email. She's like, I can't remember the deadline. Yes, I hear it every week. Hopefully this is in time. Let me know if there's any problems. So no problems. The file came in. You got it in just as I was sitting down to record and stuff. So no worries, Killer Frost. Even though we give a deadline, you actually have a bit of a grace period after the deadline as we're sitting to record. If things pop while we're sitting here, of course we're going to include it. Such as including a very late voicemail sent in by Opal Drake. It actually came in the next morning as I was sitting down to start editing. So, lucky for you, Opal Drake, I am including it as I edit the end of the episode. So here you go, one last feedback. Thanks for sending it in.
Hey guys, Opal Drake here. Probably way too late to make the feedback deadline, but giving it a shot anyway. First of all, sorry I went long last time. Still getting the hang of this feedback thing. Onto the episode. Fantastic episode. Really, really liked it. I'm a child of the 80s, so that probably played a role. It was taking me home after a certain fashion. It's really interesting to see that we keep having these, I'm sure it's not intentional, but these echoes between this show and our other big time travel show that we've got going on right now, Timeless. Had a little shout out to Ian Fleming, which of course Timeless did a whole episode with. Second of all, I was not one of the people who had a problem with last season's villain, whose name is escaping me right now. But I've got to say, Dark and Eobard Thawne are really kind of showing up just how weak he actually was. Dark has got some fantastic charisma. I think Thawne is really just knocking it out of the park as well. So great to see so much of them in this episode. Other than that, I will give this one 9 out of 10 trips into the danger zone. And that's it. Opal Drake. Bye.
Yeah, it's pretty fun, Opal Drake. Thanks again for sending in something. Don't ever apologize for any length of your feedback. Me and Harley just love getting it, no matter what length. It's a very joyous time for us when we get feedback. So yeah, don't ever apologize. I'm glad you kind of connected to it like I did. The 80s stuff was just fantastic. And it's kind of funny. Like I like how you're picking up on Dark and Eobard Thawne really bringing the villainous role to this show. And it makes me kind of curious. Do you also watch Arrow and The Flash? Have you seen the backgrounds of those two characters and where they came from? Because if you haven't, I suggest you watch a couple episodes of those shows just to see a little bit more, I guess, early beginnings to their stories. And if you haven't and you'd like to know what episodes would be good to watch, let us know. Me and Harley can kind of compile a small list for you. But yeah, glad you're enjoying those two guys.
Yeah, pretty much, because as we sit, it is 12:45 a.m.
All right, well, let's wrap this up for you, Harley. How can people get us some feedback?
If you want to join in the discussion, you can submit feedback via email to cybercastfan@gmail.com. That's SIBERCASTFAN@gmail.com. Please submit all feedback by 8 p.m. Eastern on Fridays following the show. There is a little bit of a grace period, but we prefer if you can get it in by 8. That'd be awesome. You can also join the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Tomorrow's Legends, and you can follow us on Twitter at Cybercast. All of these details and more can be found on our website at tomorrowslegends.libsyn.com, and there you can subscribe in iTunes, download episodes, and leave comments about each of the shows. And hey, while you're out there in iTunes, make sure you rate us and leave a review.
All right, Harley. Well, when I soloed this the other day, I had a quick announcement of our new section at the end of feedback. And I know you're tired and you want to get going, but how about giving me a quick little 1 or 2 minute recap of how you're feeling about Arrow and Flash so far?
Gather together from the cosmic reaches of the universe.
Okay. Let's start with Arrow, because I am 1 episode behind, so I haven't seen Wednesday night's episode. But other than that, I am loving this season. I love where they're going with it. I am really excited to see what they're going to continue doing with it, and I really am enjoying the Bratva flashbacks, because I've been waiting for them for 5 years.
So what do you think of the new team, though? I've been on the fence and off the fence, jumping from side to side. I like them, then I don't like them, then I don't like them, then I like them again.
I could take them or leave them. I like that he goes back and he's interacting with them more in the latest episode that I saw. Mm-hmm. Keep in mind I'm 1 behind, but yeah, I'm very with them.
Well, I like Ragman. I don't care for Wild Dog at all.
I don't care.
The 1 episode he was okay in, but I don't care for the character. I don't care for the guy performing. I don't know. I don't like him at all. The girl I am not taking a liking to. Up until this week's episode, she had a couple good moments with Oliver, which you'll see, so I'm curious what you think about that. But I thought she was supposed to be a Black Canary continuation because she got introduced to us last season as a Black Canary ripoff. And now she's suddenly Artemis. And what happened? We didn't see her train with a bow. We didn't see Oliver train or anything. How did she become an archer sidekick suddenly and get the name Artemis? We lost that entire transition. So that has made me lose touch with her, and I'm not really interested now.
Yeah.
And Curtis, I'm not liking him as Mr. Terrific because he's not good on the streets. I like him behind the desk with Felicity being the tech guy. She's the software girl. He's the hardware tech guy. Them two work so well together. I much prefer him behind the scenes doing that stuff. So hopefully Mr. Terrific is a very tech-based hero, and he brings all kinds of gadgets and stuff with him when he goes out. So hopefully we start to see him slide more into that realm of things.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I'm going to agree with you. Like, I love Arrow this season. This is almost as good as season 1 and 2. It's back on that track again.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The stories are connected. The history, the flashbacks are connected to what's going on nowadays. The flashbacks are interesting and a whole separate story on themselves, like you said, because of the Bratva. It's really, really cool. Mm-hmm. Everything is intertwined and connected. It's like the writers got back on track again. Now, without spoiling too much for you, because you haven't seen it, you did know that Dolph Lundgren was coming.
Oh, yeah, I did.
We finally got to see him this week, so I won't tell you any more about what he did or what happened with him, but let me tell you that we've waited 6 episodes to see him. Mm-hmm. He is outstandingly phenomenal. He's been kind of a B-rate action star. I mean, besides his days as in the Rocky movie, and he's had a few standout action flicks. Most of his movies are kind of direct-to-video release and B-action hero kind of stuff. I didn't realize his acting could be this powerful. And Matt, I think he even surpassed Slade Wilson from season 2.
Cool. Okay.
That's how good he was. That's how scary he is, how intimidating. It is amazing. When you see him come on the screen and he starts talking Oliver, you're blown away. And I cannot wait to see where this season goes with him now. And just Like Legends brought in Lance Henriksen, Arrow brings in Dolph Lundgren. That's, again, Hollywood caliber acting. Mm. And yeah, he was phenomenal. I can't wait to hear what you think. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right, how about Flash? Where are you at with Flash?
I'm really enjoying Flash. I mean, there's like some stuff that's been like kind of hit or miss, but I really liked the last episode that we got to see. I didn't really care for the big bad of the week, which wasn't really a metahuman, but I liked pretty much everything else about the episode that didn't revolve around that plotline.
Oh, that hologram monster, you mean?
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Yeah.
But, I mean, whatever.
Yeah. I'm liking what they're doing. This season's, I think, a little bit more together than season 2 was. Like, I like... What do you think of Julian Dorn, his forensic lab partner?
I'm actually really starting to like him. I really loved that final scene with the two of them in the last episode.
Mm-hmm. When they
kind of like buried
the hatchet?
Yes, buried the hatchet.
Well, and I mean, Julian was kind of opening up and kind of telling Barry a little bit of why he is the way he is.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And then Barry could be there as some kind of support, and then offered to go out for a drink. So I think actually, yeah, it was a good scene. It was a really nice scene. Yeah. But I like the bit of changes. This being a third alternate timeline that they're on, and there's very nuanced differences with everybody and what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The only thing I'm not comfortable with, the last point I want to ask you about, is what do you think of H.R. Wells, this iteration of...
I think he's something. I mean, I still don't trust him. I don't believe that he's just a novelist.
Okay, but do you like him? Do you find... Because I find him kind of annoying. I actually don't really like him. I want Earth 2 Harrison Wells back.
Yeah, I agree. I'd rather have Earth 2 Harry back.
Yeah, so... I'm with you. I think there's something up with him. Being just a front man. There's something else. Because what season has Harrison Wells not had an ulterior...
Exactly.
Motive of some kind. So there's something with him. I'm actually just a little bit annoyed with him. There's some funny scenes, of course, with him and Cisco. Different type of funny scenes, but yeah, it's a little bit over the top for me this time with them.
Yeah, it's definitely different.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll leave it at that. That's our. I know you're tired, Harley, so that's just the start. We'll get a little bit more into our Flash Arrow coverage as the seasons go on, especially with the crossover coming up, because possibly we might be looking at not only a crossover of TV shows, we might be looking at a crossover of podcasts. So we might be talking with the boys over at Central City, we might be talking with Podcast Overlord, The Shadow, and now Cammy and Ray on Arrow Squad, and even the ladies at Supergirl. So that I'm looking forward to. That could be fun.
That's going to be craziness. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic chaoticness. Or chaoticness. That's not even a word. Fantastic chaos.
Yay! There we go.
So yeah, I can't wait. That's going to be a lot of fun.
It will.
And yeah, we'll just dive into it a little bit more as we get closer to that. So if you want to talk to us about Flash and Arrow and Supergirl, by all means do. We'll answer questions and feedback about that as well and discuss it in this little section. I know we didn't really address Supergirl really tonight. I'll just tell you that I'm loving it. It's a lot of fun, and that the introduction of Superman was great, and there's a lot of things going on. It's a good show. So we'll get more into that later. I think that's it, Harley.
Hey, all right, let's get out of here.
Let's get. Are you going to hop into a time capsule and advance to next week now?
Yep, I'll see you then.
Okay, see you in a few minutes. All right, Legendaires, take care. You guys all have a good weekend. We'll see you next week. Flash is out.
And this is Harley Quinn. I'm out.